What is up everyone, Movie Win back again with another video, and today is going to be my end of month vlog for May 2023. It's going to be going over all the movies and TV shows that I watched in that month. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So the first thing I watched in May was a cinema visit, and this was Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, I believe it's called. And this stars Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez, and that was a pairing that I didn't know that I needed. I was going into this film and I wasn't really too interested in the type of story it was or anything. I'm not the biggest fantasy fan, but from the trailers I did think it looked a little bit of fun. And to be honest, it was quite an actually funny film, and it just sees your typical fantasy adventure really, with these two people off on an adventure with a little band together to help them along on their journey. And we got a bad guy in there played by Hugh Grant, who always plays a good bad guy, I feel. But overall, this was just nothing special. It was just a fun adventure movie. It was a little bit long. I do think a good 30 minutes could have been shaved off that runtime. I was feeling it in the cinema a little bit. But there was some funny laugh out loud moments, some great characters to carry us on the journey who we tag along with. Chris Pine is a fun actor, I feel, and this is one of his more fun roles, if you like. I know he's done a lot of serious stuff, but lately I have seen him in a few, entertaining type movies instead of the more serious tone, and this was probably his most fun that he's having in any movie, I feel. So yeah, it plays with the source material a little bit. I'm not the biggest Dungeons and Dragons fan or anything, but I could tell where little nods were happening here and there, and this was just a good time at the cinema. So I do recommend it. If it's not your full type of thing, then maybe just catch it on streamer or something, but for me, I thought this was a good time. So that is Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Next up, we had a movie called Missing. Now, I did know what this was about going in, even though I haven't seen the movie Searching, but I believe this is a standalone thing. And I have seen images of that film Searching, and right at the start, they do sort of play into that movie a little bit, but from what I've heard, this is definitely its own thing, and you can see it before Searching. Searching is on my watch list, though. I'm going to get around to it at some point. This basically sees this young girl who his mother goes away with her new lover for the weekend, and she's sort of in the house on her own. And we can see her talking to her friends on the laptop, arranging a party because her parents out and stuff like that. And there's a lot of webcam footage from her laptop, what's happening in the house. So basically, it's all done from a computer screen, or a phone screen, if you like, at times. And her mother goes missing whilst away with her new lover, and she's got to get to the bottom of what is happening here. Now, this was a very mysterious movie. It kept me guessing all the way throughout. I thought it was really well directed, really well edited and put together. It's not something I would like to watch all the time, but it was interesting enough for a movie that you don't see too often. And I really wanted to know what was happening and where this was all going, because it's kind of like when you hear about people going missing in real life, you do wonder what's happened, and that's what it was like throughout this entire runtime. I wanted to know where her mother had gone, what her new lover was up to, and we do delve deep into the personal lives of the characters and stuff. It was just a really well put together film, and nothing that blew me away or anything, but it was an interesting way to watch a movie, I feel. So I definitely want to check out Searching now after being quite impressed with Missing. So yeah, one of the best watches of the year so far. Next up, me and my wife started a TV series called Happy Valley. This is a British crime TV show that is very highly praised by a lot of people. And season 3 actually came out this year, and I've seen a lot of people talking about it. I thought, you know what, I don't know, maybe I've missed a boat with it. But my wife's mother said, my wife's mother, my mother-in-law, and my sister-in-law started watching it, and they said to us, you've got to watch this show. And it was all on BBC iPlayer, so me and my wife decided to start it. And yes, this is an incredible British crime drama. A lot of the story, I feel, does take a lot of ideas from the movie Fargo. It's all about a hostage ransom situation set up by these people to make a lot of money between them, but it all goes wrong, of course, and it's up to this policewoman who basically has to track down what's happening. It follows a lot in her life. She is the main lead actress in all 3 of these seasons, by the way. And how how her police life is, how her home life is, and how she's investigating this crime. But one of the criminals is kind of linked to her life in a way. I'm not going to say too much, but you will, when you watch the show, you will explain how that works. And one of these criminals, the one who is linked to this policewoman's life, is one of the most vilest villains I've seen in any TV show. Tommy Lee Royce's name is. But I definitely recommend this show if you're into that type of thing. I like British crime dramas. I do think the BBC does them well, and this is one of the best I have seen. Season 1, it was so good. I was always on edge of my seat thinking what's going to happen when the criminals or the net is closing in on them and stuff like that. It's only 6 episodes. It's definitely worth your time. And yeah, I had a great time with Happy Valley Season 1. I'll speak about Season 2 in just a minute. Next up, I watched a French brutal horror movie called High Tension, also known as Switchblade Romance here in the UK. And I'd heard a lot about this movie going in. This basically follows 2 young girls who go away to one of the girls' parents' house on this secluded farm for the weekend to study, basically, and get away, and just so they can put their heads on studying and stuff. And then the first night they get there, a sadistic killer breaks into the farmhouse and basically murders everyone. So it's basically about how these girls sort of get out of this situation, this horrifying moment in their lives, how they deal with it. And it sort of becomes a little bit of a road trip film for the second half of the movie, following this trucker everywhere. Now, what I will say is the guy who played this trucker, I forgot his name, I'm really sorry, was just a villain that you hate. He is just the most vilest person you have met, and you really felt sorry for this family that he was just basically taking all this carnage out on. I do recommend this film if you're into your brutal horror. It might be a little bit too disturbing for some people, but the ending is a lot of people's gripe with this film, and for me, it elevated the movie. It wasn't just a typical slasher film on a farm. It was clever in what it tried to do, in my opinion. I thought the lead actress in this movie was great. But yeah, there's a little bit of a twist going on towards the end of the movie. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's definitely worth a watch for a little bit of clever filmmaking, if you like. I've done a full review of this on my Movie Squirm channel, my horror channel that I started. So I'll leave the link for that down below, but that is High Tension. On to a couple of Blu-rays now, and next I watched from Arrow, Eaten Alive. I recently watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre on 4K, and I was kind of looking at Tobe Hooper's filmography, and me and my cousin in work were talking about Tobe Hooper's films. And this was the next one he made, and it was on a documentary that he went into make Eaten Alive and stuff, and I thought that sounds like a really cool concept. This is basically about a hotel owner who kills people and guests who come to his hotel and feeds them to his pet crocodile that he's got at the side of the hotel there. This is a very, very sleazy movie from 1976. Very grindhouse feel to it. There were some good moments with the crocodile, especially. That is where the film is at its best. But some of the characters in this film I did not like. The main villain, Judd, I couldn't stand the guy. There's this another weird couple that come to the hotel. One of them is played by Marilyn Burns, but her husband is even weirder than Judd, and I hated the guy. It's just so... I feel like a lot of these 70s low-budget movies, they have weird characters with weird dialogue for some reason, and this is one of them. The overall look of the hotel was pretty cool. It looked like a movie set, but I think that's what enhanced the movie for me. It was like, oh, this is what a classic horror movie, basically all on a movie set. I've done a full review for this one as well over on my Movie Squirm channel. I will leave the link to my channel down below if you want to check it out. But overall, I was kind of disappointed in this film. It was always going to be a big ask for Tobe Hooper to get to the levels of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I don't even think he got halfway to the level with this film. Like I said, there's some good moments, but overall, I was kind of disappointed in Eaten Alive. So, yeah, that is Eaten Alive. Next up, we have a new cinema release, and that was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, I think a lot of people enjoyed this movie a hell of a lot more than me, but I do think this was a solid 7.5 out of 10 film. I just feel like I'd seen it all before, and I am no way a Marvel hater or anything like that. In fact, I enjoy the majority of the films I see, but I just think that this was the movie for me where I'm feeling it a little bit too much now because I'm just seeing them all the time. I wouldn't say Marvel fatigue. I mean, I don't know if that's even a real word, but I just feel like, yeah, it's like the same. I mean, this is probably better than Ant-Man Quantumania and stuff and a couple of the previous past installments, but I don't think it was on levels of way better, in my opinion. But these are always great characters to hang around with. I especially love Drax. He's one of my favourite MCU villains. I love what Dave Bautista does with that character. I love the humour that comes out of him. I just think he's so hilarious. But I love the chemistry between all these Guardians. You know, this little team they've got. It just totally works. Everyone bounces off each other, and this is no exception in this movie. I don't think it was as good as the other two Guardians films. I know a lot of people don't really like Guardians 2, but I'm a big fan of that film. I actually like it better than the first. Well, it does a lot of the things that them two movies do. It took me a little bit to get going. The first half an hour of this film, I was like, I'm not really feeling this at all. They go to this weird sort of planet that's made out of skin and stuff, and these guys are all these in fat suits and stuff, and I was like, this is just so weird. But after that is where the movie picked up for me, especially when we get to this planet where this villain of the movie is sort of conjured up himself. And by the way, I forgot his name, but he kind of looks like RoboCop in the movie without his helmet on. He was one of the best MCU villains I've seen in a long time, to be honest. I even think he was better than Kang. I just thought he was ruthless, basically, and just would wipe out life without thinking in a second. So Guardians of the Galaxy 3 for me was a fun time. I just didn't blow my socks off like it did with a lot of people. Oh, by the way, I really enjoyed the backstory of Rocket and what we were getting into there when he was a little bit younger, and the back and forth between him and the friends he had when he was younger. That was all great. There was some emotional scenes in there. But yeah, it was a good Marvel film. Nothing more, nothing less to me. So that is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Next up on 4K, we have Hobbs and Shaw. I was carrying on my Fast and Furious movie review series, not review series, sorry, franchise watches. I watched the first 8 last month, and this was the first 8 in April, sorry, and this was the next one. So this is a spin-off that takes place after part 8, and this is basically Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham teaming up to take down Idris Elba. I do think this was a good film. It's definitely on the lower end of the Fast and Furious franchise ranking spectrum for me. It felt a little bit too family friendly, this one, a little bit way too comedic. It was like, oh yeah, people are going to go and watch this film, so we better make sure they have fun with it, so they'll keep coming back. And there was no serious tone to this movie, really. It was just an entertainment popcorn spectacular. Now, I know a lot of these films are, but this one just went a little bit too much into the comedic route for me, and just tried to be way too silly. There's little bits of superheroisms in this, with Idris Elba being a supervillain and stuff like that. I do like the chemistry between Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham. I don't think it's as good as a lot of people say, but they do have their moments. There was this one moment especially where the camera just zooms on their face and they're arguing back and forth with each other. Jason Statham like, I hate your big stupid face and stuff like that. But overall, it wasn't bad. It's watchable. Just one of the lesser liked Fast and Furious films for me, unfortunately. But overall, it was okay. Next up on 4K, I watched Fast and Furious 9 with my wife, and this for me was slightly better than Hobbs and Shaw, but again, towards the lower end of the Fast and Furious films. The first half an hour was incredible. I thought, what's everyone hating this movie for? I just like, wow, could be on course to be the best one. And then it does drop downhill a little bit. It just gets a little bit too much. I think we go to space in this movie, believe it or not, and a car is sellotaped up with duct tape. So that tells you everything you need to know about how far this movie goes. But yeah, overall, it wasn't bad. The third act just defies physics for me, really. When cars are getting swung into drones at the right moment. I'm just like, yeah. I do sit down and leave my brain at the door with these films, but this one just tried to be a little bit too much for me. But overall, it was still enjoyable. I've kind of enjoyed all these movies. It's been a fun journey. Me and my wife had a really great time with them, and I'll talk about another one in just a second. But Fast and Furious 9 was all right. It was better than Tokyo Drift and Hobbs and Shaw for me, but that's about it. It's probably third to last on the franchise ranking for me. Next up is going to be my older pick of the month, and that is a documentary called Never Sleep Again, The Elm Street Legacy. Now, this for me was just absolutely incredible. A brilliant nostalgia trip. I grew up with these films. This is the reason I love horror. A Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger. That is why I love horror movies. And I've been wanting to watch this for a while, and when they finally released it on Blu-ray here in the UK, I grabbed it straight away when I seen it on the shelf. And well, the beauty of this is it's 4 hours long, but you don't have to watch it all in one sitting. So what I liked about it is that it gives you a equal amount of time for each movie. It doesn't just have 2 hours on the first film and then 15-minute segments for the other. They're all cut into like half an hour segments for each one. Each film is given a dedicated, lot of time and a lot of effort put in. And I appreciated that because we've heard a lot about the making of Nightmare on Elm Street before. But going into things like part 4 and 5 was, for me, the best part of this documentary, especially part 3 as well, by the way, my favourite one. I loved hearing how they got around to making all that. But I found a new love for films that I may not appreciate in this franchise too much, like part 4, the way they made that movie. It was explained that way. They were just like making it up as they went along. And the way Rennie Harlan put that movie together is going to make me watch it in a new light, I feel. But this is an absolute must for Freddy fans, for Elm Street fans. It was just absolutely breathtaking to just fully delve into this journey of A Nightmare on Elm Street. And it's not just the franchise, it actually takes you on a journey with how New Line Cinema was made, with Robert Shea in charge and stuff. For me, this was just the perfect documentary. I've done a full review of this on the channel, on my Movie Squirm channel as well, down below if you want to check it out. But if you're a Freddy fan or just a horror fan in general, I highly recommend picking this up. It was just one of the best documentaries I have ever seen. So that is Never Sleep Again. Next up is another Arrow title, and this is The Stuff. This is basically a film about killer yogurts, but it's about this company that basically are making these yogurts, and people are just addicted to it because it's so nice. But what they don't realize is that there's something in this yogurt that is making them addicted to it. And for me, I felt like this was a drug addiction movie disguised as a killer yogurt film. That's what it felt like to me. And this follows this guy who is going around trying to uncover what is in this yogurt and what this food company is doing to people, and he tries to get inside there and find a way. He's like a private detective, basically. The guy who played him, I thought, was really a good character to attach yourself to. I loved his accent in this, like this deep southern accent he had. There's some funny moments with the yogurts and stuff in here. My biggest gripe was it with the kills. They were like edited poorly. Like a yogurt might come towards someone and then we'll just edit to this dead body like that, and you don't actually see the kill, if you get me. But yeah, it was a fun, goofy movie, really, but I didn't love it as much as I thought. I'd seen a lot of people giving this high ratings and stuff. Maybe on rewatch, this will do it for me. I know this is a classic low-budget movie from the 80s, but for me, I didn't love it. I just had a good time with it, and it was instantly forgettable for me. But I would watch it again. Maybe I'll see it in a new light. But overall, glad to have seen it now after hearing so many things about it. So that is The Stuff. Next up, we have another Arrow movie, and this is The Last Matey. This is a 2020 film, I believe, or 2019, was it? I think it was 2020. Spanish film about this guy going around the cinema, and he's killing people who are basically watching this movie. Now, it's not like a packed cinema. There's like 8 people in there, but he's taking them out one by one. And I'm going to the cinema after making this video, so yeah, I'm a little bit worried now. I'm just joking. But Yeah, look, this was hardly any story to this film. It was all just about the kills, and this is where the film excels. There were some great creative kills in this movie, like this guy who goes out for a cigarette. He's addicted to smoking, and as he has the first pull of his cigarette, he kind of gets his throat sliced, and the smoke all comes out of his throat and stuff. And there's this like couple in the cinema who are sort of making out, and then the killer sort of kills them in a way that it looks like they're just making out, but they're basically dead. But everyone in the audience won't know that. Yeah, there was some creative, bloody, gory kills in here. So if you like that type of thing and you're not bothered about the story, then this film is for you. It's well directed. The downside to me is that there was actually no story. I wish there was a little bit more to it. And the killer wasn't all that interesting when revealed. He was just like, yeah, instantly forgettable killer for me. But overall, I had an okay time with this. It wasn't bad. It was just a slasher where no substance, basically. It was just a movie that was there to kill a few people, and that's it. No story at all. But yeah, interesting location for the cinema as well. That is the last Matey. Next up is Babylon on 4K. This is a film that I missed at the cinema. I had a booking to go and see it with my friends, but that night my wife had to go to hospital just to get a check on, because she's pregnant and stuff. There was a slight scare, but everything was okay in the end. So I missed it, and all the times after that, the cinema listings were like stupid times for a 3-hour movie. Like, it was starting at 8:30, but after the trailers, it's like 9 o'clock, so you're not getting out of there till 12 and stuff. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to wait for the 4K. So my wife went out with her friends last Saturday, drinking non-alcoholic beer, of course, and I thought, it's a good time to watch Babylon. And I watched it. I hardly ever buy brand new 4Ks, but this was one I really wanted to see. And this film was fantastic. Damien Chazelle is one of the most exciting directors working in Hollywood at the minute, I think. And speaking of Hollywood, that is what this film is about. It's a Hollywood tale in the 1920s/30s, when cinema sort of goes over from silent cinema to sound. And yes, that might sound like the movie Singing in the Rain, and that's exactly what this movie felt like. It felt like a remake of Singing in the Rain with cocaine and stuff in there and, you know, murders and stuff like that. And the film knows that. It does actually show Singing in the Rain at one point in this movie. It kind of knows what it's doing. But the music in this film was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. It's like a score that plays throughout, but what is happening on screen actually goes with the music. It was just so well edited, so well directed as well by Damien Chazelle. Now, we've got Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie in here who give brilliant performances. They play like the biggest actress and the biggest actor at the time. That's what they're playing in the movie. Not far off from real life, actually. They both give great performances. It just shows both of their stories and stuff. But Diego Calva, who is actually the main protagonist of the film, he's like the central focus, if you like. I thought he put in a fantastic performance, and I don't think I've seen him in anything. I believe he was in Narcos, which I haven't watched. But yeah, he was a really good lead to play in this movie. And it's just about all these actors and actresses basically in Hollywood, but mainly these two. But we do delve into a few other people's lives and stuff like that. I just thought it was a really well put together film. Hardly felt the runtime, and I would watch this again 100%, even though it's 3 hours. I'm glad to own that on 4K. Well, yeah, one of the best movies of 2022. That is Babylon. Next up, I'm going to have this as my new pick of the month, and that is Fast X. Yes, better than Guardians of the Galaxy 3 for me. No, look, I have had a great time with this franchise. I'm surprised I haven't really been bored at all after watching 10 of these films, now 11 with this one. Me and my wife have just had a blast with this franchise, and I can see why they carry on going. But for me, this was one of the best Fast and Furious films. After 5 and 7, I think this was my favourite. And a lot of that is down to Jason Momoa as the villain in this movie. He's kind of like the Joker. He's just having the time of his life. He knows the film that he's in, and he just runs with it. And man, I could not take my eyes off this guy. Me and my wife turned to each other so many times at the cinema laughing at some of the dialogue he's coming out with and stuff. He was just a blast in this movie. Definitely my favourite Fast and Furious villain by a mile. And the movie itself has so many great moments as well. There was like this bike flip that Michelle Rodriguez's character Letty done at one point, and I was just like, jaw dropped in the cinema. And even though it was one of the most simple action scenes they've done, it was just one of my favorite. I just loved the way that bike flipped over this like metal bar that was there to trip the bike up with. I mean, you've probably seen it on the trailer, but there was I think it was a little bit more toned down from Fast and Furious 9, even though there is some what the fuck moments in here. We don't go to space in this one, put it that way. But yeah, Vin Diesel, there's so many story parts going on. We've got Vin Diesel's son in here who's all grown up in this movie now, and he goes on a little adventure with John Cena, and then we're seeing what Vin Diesel's doing, and then we're seeing what Michelle Rodriguez and Charlize Theron's character are doing in this. Yeah, it is left on a bit of a cliffhanger. You may have heard that Vin Diesel is going to make has came out and said that it's going to be a 3-part trilogy, this one, and that is probably true. Because it is left on a massive cliffhanger, but it just made me want more. I know people will totally disagree that these movies, with me being this new release of the month, and that these movies are shit, but for me, they work. I enjoyed this franchise, and sue me, basically. So yeah, Fast X was a great time at the cinema. Seeing it in iSense as well was just, this is the first Fast and Furious movie I've seen at the cinema, so maybe that added something to it, but I had a great time with this film. So that is my new release of the month, Fast X. Next up, we have Clive Barker's Nightbreed from 1990, I believe, written and directed by Clive Barker, based on his book Cabal, I believe it's called. Now, this was a movie that I heard of, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to have to watch that. It's basically about this guy who is getting visions and voices in his head, and lured to this place called Midian, where these monsters live, and he decides to go and check this place out, and lo and behold, it is a place called Midian where the monsters live. Now, it's very hard for me to put my finger on. I did enjoy this film, but I do feel like this is a film that is going to require multiple rewatches. I watched the director's cut because it said it makes a lot more sense. And it didn't make sense, but I just feel like I didn't get the whole grasp of the movie, because there is a lot going on. It moves very quickly and stuff. Some great creature design in here. David Cronenberg is actually a very sinister character in this movie. He puts a great performance in. It's weird to see him act in a movie. I can't remember the last time I seen him in anything, but he does a great job here. I just can't really fully go into what I felt about this film. I just feel like I need to rewatch it again. But a great idea from Clive Barker. The creature design was awesome. Some great looking characters in there and stuff. I just feel like I need to give it another go. I did plan on reviewing this on my horror channel, but yeah, definitely gonna have to rewatch it to fully grasp the film, I think. But there was something there. It was okay. And one I will definitely watch again. So that is Nightbreed. Next up, we have Happy Valley Season 2. Now, I'm not going to talk about Season 3 here, because I have one episode left to watch till I finish the whole thing, so I'll probably talk about Season 3 next month. But Season 2 was another great season of this show. This is basically about this one sort of follows this cop who accidentally murders his lover that he's having an affair with, and he's trying to get away with it while also being a detective on the case, and he can feel the neck closing in on him there. And it also follows the main actress from the first series. I'm really sorry I forgot her name. But she is sort of, it follows her life again, and her uncovering what is going on basically with this serial killer that's going around. I don't think it was as good as the first series, but it was only a slight drop off. It was still a very solid season. Like again, it's more of the same British crime. 6 episodes, absolutely flew by. I'm glad I've watched this show now. I definitely recommend it. It's worth a watch. It's just one of them edgy or seek crime stuff, basically. And there's some brutal moments in this show, it really is. But for me, season 1 was slightly better, but season 2 wasn't a disappointment or anything. Yeah, not more to say on that. I mean, just give it a go. I don't want to start talking too much about it if you haven't seen it. And those who have seen it will know how good of a show it is. So yeah, that is Happy Valley Season 2. And finally, we do have the last in the Cornetto trilogy, and this was a first time watch for me, and that is The World's End. This is basically following Simon Pegg getting his buddies back together from high school and going on a pub crawl that they didn't finish when they were in teenage years. And they set out to finish it finally. Now, well, I thought this was a very, very good film. I give it the same rating as Shaun of the Dead and Hoffers, even though it is slightly not as good as them films. I don't think it deserves a full half a star drop off or anything. It was just the last 20 minutes. It kind of went a little bit too much for me, and it kind of like, I wish it had a better ending, basically. But yeah, it's just following these guys going around the pubs. There's 12 pubs that they've got to compete, called the Golden Mile, and the last one is the World's End. That's the name of the pub. But something is going on in the town, basically, and they, halfway through the film, they sort of run into the problems that this town is having. But I thought the chemistry between these lot was great. It's got British acting talent in there. You got Paddy Considine, Martin Freeman, who's great in everything, Eddie Marsden, Simon Pegg, and of course Nick Frost. And the chemistry between them is excellent. I loved, hanging out with these characters, basically, and they're going over their teenage years and stuff like that. The comedy is on point. Simon Pegg gave a hell of a performance in this movie. Probably one of my favorite performances by him. Maybe even be the best in this trilogy. Now, it's not the best movie, but it might be the best performance by him. I just thought he was excellent in the film. But I had a great time with this. It was a fun comedy. Glad to have finally seen all three of these films now, and I will have to grab that on 4K at some point. But yeah, I had a great time with The World's End. Okay guys, hope you all enjoyed this video. What did you think of these movies? Let me know down below in the comments, and I'll try and get back to you all, I promise. Please give this video a like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And if you want to check out them horror movie reviews over on my horror channel and subscribe to that, please follow the link down below, and all that good stuff will be in there. So thanks so much guys, take it all easy, and I'll see you all on the next video.